Hey everyone, it's Kristen. We're continuing the DC Valentine's um, series. There's a couple. Well, this group will be Superman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman. Just like I said, this is just original, like short little stories that DC put out for Valentine's Day, 2018. So I just, some of these are really good. Like we haven't even done my favorite one yet, but I'll let you know when it happens, like which one is my favorite. Do you have a favorite yet? Like, did you watch the monsters video in the Batman family video? uh, so if you did, let me know which little short story was your favorite. Like I said, we haven't done my favorite yet. I will let you know when we do. So this is a Superman story, and he's in the kitchen with Lois, his wife, and she's talking about like she doesn't understand why he's doing what he's about to do. Like she said, it's a fool's errand. There's no point to it. Like it's dangerous, and he's like, I feel like I can do some good. And I just want to be able to do some good for once instead of just preventing what's bad. Like I want to contribute something positive instead of always stopping the negative, which I get what he's saying. Um, you know, so, and he's like, Lois says, well, couldn't you just, ask for backup? Like your friends in the Justice League. And he said, well, this is more of a personal thing. Like this is, he calls it a family thing, and he just wants to keep it that way. And his son hears him and says, family, interesting. Like, Dad's not the only one with an S on his chest. So he follows him, and he's like, this is a job for Superboy. And, he flies, and he's like, wow, Dad's really fast for an old man. And he sees his dad, Superman, standing in front of Solomon Grundy. Which, interestingly enough, the first Superboy, I think was like 1993. It was a clone of Superman, like a like half Kryptonian, half human, Lex Luthor to be exact, because Lex was going to use him to replace Superman, basically, have Superboy under his control. And of course, Superman is referred to Superboy in like his adventures when he was like a teenage, like adolescent, before he became Superman. The Superboy clone had like telekinesis, which, X-Men Professor Xavier, Jean Grey, and his particular telekinesis, he could like mimic Superman's powers, like his strength, invulnerability, flight, which is an interesting set of powers, I guess, to, not have Superman's powers, but have the ability to mimic them, so to speak. I mean, anyway, and then, but he died, like, saving the Earth in one of the crisis. I say one of the crisis stories because there's so many. I mean, like, I hate to say it, but of course comic books, like soap operas, kind of reuse the same storyline sometimes because, it just happens. Maybe they're run out of source material or, new storylines. I don't know, but they do end up doing, or maybe it was such a good story that they're like, ooh, how can we do this again? How can we recapture the magic of that story? So that's also probably a possibility of why they redo some stories. So anyway, Solomon Grundy, he there's actually like a old English poem that goes along with him. It's like, I think 1842 was the first time it was actually like printed, but it's been around longer than that. It was to teach the kids the days of the week. It goes like Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday, Christened on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, got sick on a Thursday, grew worse on a Friday, died on Saturday, was buried on Sunday, and that was the end of Solomon Grundy. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting that they took that, kind of poem and used it for him. And he is like based, I think like he was a not very good guy. I think his name was like Cyrus Gold or something. He was, like basically a criminal, and he was killed in like this the swampland, and basically like every time he's killed, something happened to him, and every time he's killed, he comes back to life in that swampland, so he can't really ever die. He's basically kind of like a zombie, in that way. I think that's his name. I'm pretty sure. So anyway, Superboy freaks out. He's like, "Oh my gosh, get away from my dad, you zombie. Don't eat his brains." And Clark is like, "Stay back. Look, just stay here. You don't understand." And he's trying to settle Solomon Grundy down. He's like, "Settle, big guy. Like, remember why we're here. Cool down, cool off." And, his son, Jonathan, is like, "Dad, what's going on?" And he's like, "I just need this." And all this time that they're fighting, Solomon Grundy is reciting that poem. Born on a Monday, christened on Tuesday. He's reciting this poem. And Superman says, "Grundy, remember why you're here." And Superman holds up these flowers. And it's like, flowers? What's going on? So basically, Jonathan, is like, "What's going on?" And he says, Superman said, "Your mom is actually the one who figured out." Solomon goes crazy every day, every year, like clockwork on this day. And she figured out that it turns out it's his wife's birthday today. And so I worked it out with the warden that I would come bring him here so that he could pay his respects to his wife. And that's what Lois was talking about. Isn't it dangerous? Because, Solomon Grundy, he's, very strong physically. He can't be killed. He, is a lot of times out of control. And his son, was like, someone married him. And he said, of course, he wasn't this back then, but he was someone else. And he needs people that remember him as who he was before. But for him, everyone's gone. Everyone like that for him is gone. So that's why I wanted to do this for him, so that he could come and pay his respects to his wife. So like I bring flowers, and he puts them on his wife's grave. And Solomon says, I couldn't afford real ones, I just usually picked whatever was growing in the wild, daisies, tiger lilies, but she loved them. She loved them all, even at our wedding. She smiled so bright that Sunday. And then he goes back into Sunday, buried on Sunday. And that was the end of Solomon Grundy. And, his son says, "Dad, isn't Mom right? Isn't this a huge risk?" And Superman says, "Love's always a risk, John, but it's worth it, even when it hurts." And we see, a very dramatic scene of him walking out of the cemetery, having paid his respects to his wife. So I just thought that was, a very interesting point. Very interesting story, because you don't really think about sometimes that like supervillains, especially ones like that, had lives before they became who they are. And it's nice that Superman remembers that about him, because nobody else will, nobody else can, because everyone that he knew, Solomon, is dead. Okay, so let me find the next story really quick. Okay, the next one is Aquaman and Mera. And so they're at the lighthouse, you know, because his dad was a lighthouse keeper and his mom, you know, was a, well, you know. I mean, like, sorry, I just got distracted because remember Nicole Kidman playing, you know, his mom in Aquaman, and just thinking she looked so pretty, and so it was so cool just to see her. Oh, and I have a Mira Barbie, like right behind me. You can kind of see it. Anyway, so Mira is in the lighthouse, and they're, you know, there's a storm coming, so they have to batten down the hatches, so to speak, and like close all the windows. And Mira finds these letters, and she, you know, she's never seen them before. And what they are, and they start off is saying, "My dearest Felicity, the ocean is calm today, but my heart swells every time I think of you." So basically, you see, here's Felicity, and here is a man named Samuel. Sorry, I was like, wait, what is his name? Samuel. So basically, you know, she's really pretty, and everyone really likes her. And Samuel sees her, and he's smitten with her, and he wants to, you know, get to know her better. And his boss informs him, well, you know, good luck with that. And he's like, why? Does she have a cold heart? And he's like, no, her father is super strict. Like he will not let her, you know, go out with anyone, basically. And he's like, oh, you know, because so Samuel dances with Felicity, you know, his boss introduces them, and he actually is a one of the crew on a ship called the Autumn's Daughter, his ship. And she, the daughter of the lighthouse keeper, you know, is like, oh, I've seen that ship. You know, she's beautiful. And Samuel says, I bet you can guess what he's going to say. You know, her beauty compares, you know, doesn't even compare to yours. Anyway, and apparently they love all the same things about the sea because, of course, having been the lighthouse keeper's daughter, she grew up, you know, with the sea all around her. And of course, he's like, the father's like, stay away from my daughter. So they start, you know, writing to each other back and forth. And, you know, she writes to him, Samuel, my father has not changed his mind. He's determined that I marry someone who will stay on land. Like the father doesn't want his daughter marrying someone who's basically gone at sea all the time. And plus, you know, in those days, a lot more ships were lost at sea. And so he just didn't want that for his daughter. And they go outside, you know, there's a swell, and Mara notices a grave, and she's like, is that a grave marker? And it says Felicity Merkman, always waiting, always hoping, 1863. So that's Felicity, the lighthouse keeper's daughter. Oh, and I didn't notice this before when I read it, but look, there's a, well, it's really hard to see because she's super pale, but there's Felicity. She's a ghost. She's still waiting for Samuel to come back home, so to speak. So you know what that means. So they, you know, the letters continue saying, you know, she Samuel, my heart still belongs to you. It always will. And the father says, you know, you'd be doomed to loneliness if you married him. I mean, he'll always love the sea more than you. And she said, I am his ocean, father. And she sends him a lock of her hair so that she can always be with him. Like, so a part of her can always travel with him. And it says, he sends Felicity a note saying, I'll wait for you by the cove. And so, Mara says the letters after that stopped, and she's like, what happened? And Arthur says, the lighthouse went dark. Samuel's ship was lost at sea in the storm, or was lost in the storm. And weeks later, a couple of men floated in on broken parts of the ship, and they said the last time they saw Samuel, he was clinging to the mast. And you see a flashback to back then in the day, and it says another year's gone by, and the lighthouse keeper comes in and says, the light's gone out. We'll have to use torches on the moors and hope, pray that the ships can see them. And all of a sudden their power goes out, and Mara says, that's strange. The generator should have kicked in. And Arthur says, I'll go check. And basically, Felicity's, of course, super worried about the light going out, because how are the ships going to see to get back to land if they can't see how to get back? And she says, what ships are out there? And he names 2, and then he says the Autumn's daughter, which is Samuel's ship. And she runs out, and Mara runs out, and he's like, where are you going? And she's like, I won't let this happen again. I won't let another ship get lost. So you see the lighthouse keeper and his daughter go out and try with lanterns to guide the ships in. And, Mara tries to calm the waters, these raging waters. And basically Felicity says, I see ships, but I don't see, the Autumn's daughter. And the letters continue. Like it says, Felicity, the dolphins came today, and they made me laugh, but they're a poor substitute for you. And very cheesy. She says, my darling Samuel, when I first saw you, I thought that all time had stopped, for I knew that you were the only moment that mattered. Like I said, very cheesy. Yeah, I won't go into anything like that. So basically, Mara can control the water and the waves and create water and stuff, and so she's trying to calm this storm. And she's like, go, go with the marine life and guide the ships back to the shore. And he's like, I won't leave you. And she's like, go. I can handle it. And basically, again, he says, Felicity, you're my greatest adventure. And in all this storm and all the raging water, Mara finds something, and it's the figurehead to the ship. Like I think at one point I knew what that was called, like the figure on the front of the ship. I'm calling it a figurehead, but I'm pretty sure that's wrong. If you know what it is, please let me know in the comments, because I'm not even sure how to look that up. I guess I could type in figurehead of a ship and see what comes up. Anyway, so she finds the figurehead of the ship. It says Autumn's daughter on it. And here's Felicity standing in the rain saying, Samuel, come home. I'll leave this place if you just come with me. And then hours later, you see Arthur on the dock and saying, Mara, where are you? Please come home. And here she comes, and she has the figurehead with her. And he's like, I thought I lost you. And she said, you won't ever lose me. True love always comes home. And so you see that added to Felicity's part is Samuel Wentworth finally home. Because you can see, because she brought the figurehead of the ship there. And then you see the 2 ghosts embracing right there. So the story of back in the 1860s mirrored what was happening at that moment, which I thought, it was sweet. But of course, some of the lines were super cheesy and over the top, but maybe that's kind of how they talked back then. I don't know. I think that is how they talked back then, because people don't really talk that way nowadays. Well, okay, if they do, I certainly don't know. of anyone that does. Definitely not anyone, not anyone that I know. So the last one in this series is a Superman and Wonder Woman one, which, let me find it. Here it is. Okay, so they're in Tuscany, and, they're having a romantic candlelight dinner, because Wonder Woman has had relationships with Superman and with Batman. Interestingly enough. So, but Superman married Lois, of course, and Batman has now married Catwoman, so, poor Wonder Woman. But, I mean, I'm sure she has plenty of beaux, so to speak. Anyway, so they're in Tuscany, and Clark's like, this is a great choice, Diana. This place is really beautiful, and the live music is great. And Diana says, I can't take the credit. It was my cousin Eros, who is the god of love, that gave me this, that suggested this place. And she's like, it's one of his favorites. And he's like, Clark says, Eros, as in, she's like, yeah, I mean, he's a demigod, but yeah. And he says, you've never really told me much about your family. And she says, well, when it comes to my family, you're just better off not knowing. I mean, of course, because like her family are all like the Greek gods and stuff, and that, I mean, you think comic books are soap opera? Whoa. Yeah. Greek mythology, Greek gods, Roman gods, etc. That is a soap opera. I mean, holy cow. Like, that's even worse than soap operas. Anyway, if you ever are interested, study Greek mythology, Roman mythology. They have, I mean, it's crazy because they have gods for almost everything, and these gods, it's crazy. All kinds of stuff happens. I mean, that you wouldn't think would happen, but it does, because they pretty much are gods, and they can do whatever they want, and they end up doing that whatever they want. Anyway, it's crazy. So she just says, when it comes, my family, you're better off not knowing. And he's like, it's okay if you don't want to talk to them. I mean, believe me, I know what keeping secrets can do, And she's like, is that so? You haven't been completely honest with me? Because I have a lasso that can take care of that, kind of joking. And he says, no, it's just, all my life I've had to keep this secret in order to, hide part of me from everyone I love. And Diana said, well, that's, you're not lying. That's to protect people. You're doing it to protect them. I mean, that's heroic. And he's like, well, I don't know about that. I mean, but I know when I'm with you, I don't have to worry about any of that. I can just be me. And she says, you seem so sure of your place in the world, where I'm still trying to figure out what mine is. I mean, I have this lasso of truth from my mother, but, things could have been so differently if I had just used the lasso on her. And she could have been referring to the fact that, for such a long time, Diana didn't know, who she was, that she was actually made instead of born. And all of that stuff that went along with it. She thought she was really Hippolyta's daughter, and she just wasn't in the way that she thought she was, and and her mom wasn't clear in her purpose, what her purpose was to be. So we go to this page, next page, and it's these two singers that it's saying, thank you. You've been such a beautiful audience. We're the Mantic sisters. And you've been such a, super wonderful audience, especially you two, making a joke, as in, Superman, Wonder Woman. And she, points to them. And then Clark's like, Diana, why is everyone staring at us? And Diana's like, what the heck's going on? And so they start singing this song, and Clark says their voice is so beautiful, and you can see like his eyes are like glazed over. He's basically fallen under their spell. And Diana's like, Clark, what's wrong? And apparently Eros, her cousin, comes and says he can't hear you. None can resist the song of the sirens. He's bewitched. And as would you be, little cousin, if it wasn't for your lasso. And she, of course, Diana's shocked, because she did say Eros recommended this place. So she's like, I can't believe my own kin led us into this trap. And he's like, it's an exchange. I don't know how to pronounce the name of this Greek god, like Hephaestus. Anyway, the guy who can make armor, and like a genius intellect. So he has pistols that Hephaestus had made for him. And so the sirens are saying war's coming and we're gathering weapons and armor. And so basically, Eros says they have mine and they want yours. And so basically the sirens say, hand over the lasso, surrender the lasso and your bracelets. And otherwise these people will dash themselves on the rocks because they're under the siren spell. And, your lover, his heart will be lost to you. And then Diana's like, surrender? You don't know me at all. And she transforms into Wonder Woman, and she whips out her lasso and catches Eros in her lasso. And the sirens say, break her heart, take her life. And he says, the truth hurts. I'm no longer under your spell. And they're like, we weren't talking to you. And so there's Superman. And he's like, submit, Amazon. And she's holding back his lasers with her bracelets. And then she flings the lasso of truth at him, wraps him up, and says, the truth will set you free. Clark, what are you doing? And he's like, the truth is, I don't want to hurt you. But he still, backhands her basically out of the way really hard. And Eros, he's out of the siren spell, and he's like, this is all my doing, which is interesting that Eros, using the lasso on Eros, the spell broke for him, but using it on Superman, it didn't break. So I wonder why that is. Maybe because Eros is like an Olympian, like a Greek god, or I think that DC actually has them as an extraterrestrial race that was worshipped as gods in ancient ancient Greece. So maybe because he's an Olympian that the spell was broken. I don't know. So basically he's like, this is my doing, the sisters would have me break your hearts, but I'll break theirs instead. So he shoots them, and he's the god of love, remember? So he shoots them in the heart. And that makes them like basically fall in love with him. And they're like, oh, please forgive us. We'll make it up to you. We'll do anything for you. We love you. And he's like, both of you just get out of my sight. You make me sick. And Clark, who is now free of their enchantment because their hearts were broken. Diana's like, please tell me that, you're yourself again. Please tell me that you've broken their enchantment. And he's like, Diana, I'm so sorry. And Eros says, I share my part in the blame of this, but I would see that you never hurt my cousin again. You'll never love another. So he shoots Clark. And Diana's like, no, I didn't want it to happen this way. I wanted you to have a choice. I'm so sorry. And he's like, I wanted it to be your choice. And Clark says, it is, because he caught the bullet. I mean, because, it's Superman. Even if you are a Greek demigod, you know, whatever. It's still Superman. He can still stop a bullet. So I just thought that was interesting because you don't, I mean, I think all these stories are just interesting. I know I keep saying that a lot, but I think they really are. I really enjoy them. It's a different way to look at these heroes, so to speak. And I just thought it was cool to see a story about Superman and Wonder Woman because, you know, two of the most powerful heroes dating. That seems, you know, it makes sense, but it's also a little bit weird. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have enjoyed the other videos too. And I also hope that you'll join me for, I think there's like a couple more videos. There's like a miscellaneous video, and then there's like the Harley Quinn Valentine special issue, or Valentine special story that's in this issue. So I hope you also will join me for that. And until next time, bye.